The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities.
It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday, and indeed it is. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park Money Radio Studios, 1510 AM, 105.3 FM, and the World Wide Web, moneyradio1510.com. If this is the first time you're tuning into our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. How do they do that? They do that by right here listening to this show, coming at you every single Friday for over 10 years now. Can't believe you guys have had me on for 10 years, but it's been truly a great privilege and honor to be bringing to the airways just great guests that bring meaningful content. Today is, we're halfway through December. It's December 16th. Hard to believe we're winding down 2022. But I figured that we would take a moment to really reflect on the year and some of the things that we've talked to you all about, but certainly stuff that has happened also in healthcare and in our world over the last, call it 12 months. 50 weeks, 52 weeks makes an entire year. So I have in the studio two extraordinary guests. They're going to help contribute to what I have to bring to you today. And one is sitting here to my left. It's Lauren Strait. Strait Talk PR is her company, and she's a longtime friend, and she really helps me with the content that we bring here to you, our listeners, but also she helps me in terms of the information that we get out with Cypress Home Care through social media, through our newsletter, through our website. It's something we can't all do ourselves, and we do rely on others to help us. And in this virtual world we're in today, we've learned how to be as business owners, we've learned how to be very efficient. We've learned how to do more with less. And Lauren has been a very contributing factor to doing that. So Lauren is here in the studio with me. Say hello, Lauren.
Hello. Pleasure to be here today.
Pleasure to have you. And then just to my right is my nephew, who has been in town for a couple weeks, joining me to learn a little bit about the older adult market. He is in healthcare himself. Spencer Roth, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a treat as a longtime listener to finally get to be in person.
There you go. Well, it's good to have you in person. You know, we get to do a lot of things here at Health Futures, and a lot of what I do is bringing to you meaningful content that I am bringing to our listeners. And, you know, I want to just share with everyone, a couple weeks ago, I had a chance to be a judge, and no, I'm not the best judge money can buy, but I do serve on the board for the HEAL Lab for Arizona State University, their Edson School of Nursing and Innovation. And the HEAL Lab is the Health Entrepreneurship Accelerator Lab. And basically what they do is they bring to really the marketplace these great innovations and these great ideas. I've had Rick Hall, who oversees this, here in the studio with me. But there's some extraordinary professors that work with these students to really help them, you know, mentor them and help them really provide coaching and guidance to some of the greatest ideas and concepts that they have. And I, on December 2nd, was a judge for the Health Innovation Exhibition, and there were over 650 freshmen that were there in the parking lot, and they were pitching ways to solve problems that we deal with in our communities. And those problems could be access to birth control, it could be access to, you know, really healthy eating, and it just a lot of really good stuff. And for me to see this the bright talent that is here at our universities is nothing short of exceptional. And really speaking about Arizona State University, earlier this week I attended a graduation, nursing graduation, and it was nursing school graduation. It was really a pleasure and an honor. Many of you, as our listeners, know that my father, Sheldon, a.k.a. Noodles Roth, who has been a guest here on the show, passed away last month. And it was very devastating as a family to lose your patriarch. And for me, he gave me a number of different gifts. One of them was the gift of making the decision to go into hospice, and he was on hospice for nearly 7 weeks. And comfort, that's an understatement. They provided him a lot of comfort, and they surrounded him with all the necessary resources to make his journey as best it could be. But I share this with you because one of the caregivers that was caring for him was a gentleman by the name of Bryant, and a big shout out to Bryant. He is an ASU nursing graduate because my wife Susie and I got a chance to attend his graduation. And you know, if there's any time that you really feel maybe down about our future, go to some of these college campuses and see what is going on there. I mean, I talked to you just briefly about the Heal Lab, and the Heal Lab is something that is pretty darn good to see these students really thinking outside the box. The Health Entrepreneurship Accelerator Lab, and then seeing these kids graduate. So kudos. I mean, there is hope for our future, and I'm really excited. Spencer, you've had a chance to really get a chance to see up front and close some of the work that we do in home care. You got a chance to see your grandfather receive care. Your thoughts on the future of care? I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I have to say, getting to see non-family members receive care, I think my big takeaway was how appreciative the folks that were getting the care were. Obviously realized how much stress or it can take a burden off of some of their family members, but being able to see how appreciative the people actually receiving the care were was very impactful.
But and I'm glad you bring that up, because family members are something I talk about all the time. I mean, family caregiving is really hard work, and people don't really recognize that work that is being done, and it truly is a labor of love. And for us as a home care agency at Cypress Home Care and other professional home care agencies that are out there, to provide that ongoing support and being able to help those families take on the necessary duties of providing care for their loved ones so that they can get a break, so they can rest up, they can go and maybe visit with grandchildren, maybe take care of themselves and have personal time to maybe go get a massage or a pedicure or manicure, or even go shopping, or even be with girlfriends or boyfriends. I mean, whatever the release is, they be able to recharge their batteries so they're a better caregiver. I mean, that's what we do, and I'm so glad you got a chance to see that firsthand. And Lauren, you've been in the front seat here. We got about 1 minute as we wind down the first segment. We lined up a lot of great guests in 22, didn't we?
We really have. It's been an honor to sit here and meet and listen to the extraordinary guests and leaders in the Valley who are working to make the lives of our aging seniors the best that they can through innovation, services, and beyond. It's been mind-blowing, and it's awe-inspiring to hear how passionate they are in their respective industries to solve problems, enhance experiences, and close gaps so that our aging seniors here in the community can continue to live their best lives.
Well, I tell you what, you have helped me immensely in terms of putting a great lineup together. And these are all healthcare professionals. Some of them are scientists. Some of them are financial advisors. And, we talked about having Katie Brenneman on and really helping people really navigate through the Medicaid myriad of options that are out there. But we've also had some other people here on the studio, like Chris Camacho from Phoenix. GPAC.
Yep, Greater Phoenix Economic Council.
Yeah,
yep.
And really talking about how important healthcare is. So
absolutely.
I'm really looking forward to 23 in terms of the lineup you're going to set us up for, because really, as I've always said, it's the guests that make the show. It's not me. It's what they bring to the table. And it's really nice to be able to recap 22. And Lauren and Spencer, I'm really glad to be able to do it with you. You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. We're kind of recapping 22, and we're going to come back to you and talk to you a little bit more about some of the shows. Stick around. We'll be right back. How would you...
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we are in our second segment. If you missed the first segment, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button right below its radio show. You can catch this show and many more. If you're just tuning in, we're kind of recapping 22. It's been an interesting year, to say the least. And, you know, I talked a little bit about the loss of my dad, and, you know, anybody that has lost a parent, especially your patriarch, it's a really, it's a humbling experience. It's one that you really aren't really prepared for as much as you are. And, you know, I've been dealing with that. You know, it's about a month ago today that we lost him, and you know, the void is very, very much there, and the pain is really sharp. But I will say this: the outpouring of love and support that we have received from family, friends, and the community as a whole has been nothing but short of extraordinary. And I can't thank you all, and thank you for sending that love, and keep sending it, because it really helps heal the heart. It really, truly does. So when we talked about in the first segment, we talked about, you know, 22, and you know, we finished off 21 with Heidi Janega, and she was extraordinary. And for people that don't know who she is, she's got the notoriety for PT Web, and PT Web was Web PT, and that was an extraordinary company, one that many people in the business community have followed and watched, because she grew it from nothing to just this mega company that over 50% of physical therapy practices use in their practice every single day. But I want to give her a shout out, only in the sense that I want to give her a shout out, period, but only in the sense that she talked about New Year's resolutions, and, you know, they're going to be coming. People are going to be starting to think about, you know, how do they get in physical shape, financial shape, personal shape, you name it. How do they get those resolutions down for 23? And when we talk about physical shape, you know, a lot of us, you know, don't really know what to do and how to do it right. You know, join a health club, yes, but how do you go about doing the proper exercises? And, you know, one of the things that she shared with us was that you don't need a doctor's order to see a physical therapist. And a physical therapist can really examine your strength and where your weaknesses are, and really work on you in terms of building the exercises that you should follow to strengthen those areas that you are weak in. And Spencer, you happen to be a personal trainer, so I mean, you've had experience in this as well. I mean, it's not an easy path. It's one that people have to make that commitment to, and making that commitment and having a personal trainer or an advocate or somebody that is holding you accountable is really important, is it not?
Yeah, I think it can go a long way, especially in helping you formulate a plan of action, and, you know, walking before you run, as they say.
Yeah, no doubt. And making sure you're hitting and meeting your goals is really important. So, you know, a big shout out to Heidi, and really, you know, for those people that are out there that are trying to put together a program, one that lasts more than the first month of the year. A physical therapist is a great way to start. You know, Lauren, we want to talk about a couple things, and I know you and I talked about at the break. What were some of the things that you and I chatted about?
Well, what a brilliant mind. Just back to Heidi really quick, you know, closing that gap of creating this electronic medical record platform in order to expand physical therapy and access to physical therapy. That's huge. And I think what we were touching on as a segue into that is that we know as a home care industry, Cypress Home Care, that our seniors are living longer, they're wanting to be more active, and they're still very much engaged in their communities and want to age at home. So we're kind of bringing, all the people are trying to innovate in ways to kind of bring innovation, care, services, bridging those gaps right there where they are and meeting them where they are. And I think that's really pretty fascinating.
Well, the electronic medical record, which I thought was really cool, she talked about, is that she can give you, if you come to visit her or any physical therapist that's using the WebPT program, is that she can give you a link to the exercises. And, you know, it's one thing, because I've done physical therapy. I used to be an athlete. Now I'm a weekend warrior, if best. And you have an injury, you usually have to follow a plan, and they used to give you pieces of paper, and who knows where they ended up going. But to visually see in demonstration how to do a certain exercise, a certain therapeutic motion or movement is really beneficial. You know, after we had her show, we had the folks from Sun Health on.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, we had Joe LaRue here in the studio with me, and Joe is the president and CEO of Sun Health, and you know, Sun Health is really innovative. They reside out there in the West Valley. Their claim to fame is their connection to Del Webb, who built a couple hospitals out there, and they are doing some amazing things, and they are doing them in the community themselves. They have 3 communities: Grandview Terrace, La Loma, and they also have Colonnade, the Colonnade, which is 3 incredible, extraordinary communities. But they also have Sun Health at Home, and Sun Health at Home is one that I've talked about over the years, where you can get care in the home. And you sign up for these contracts that are very similar to a long-term care insurance contract, but it doesn't put you into a community. You can receive all your health care needs really through a coach, through a counselor, having doctors visit, nursing visits. It's really extraordinary program where when they had their 7th member, they came onto my show, and they're in the hundreds now, so they're doing amazing things.
Well, and the wellness programs that they offer too, you can go and look on their calendar of events and like sign up to just for like a program that they're offering or an event, and it's pretty cool.
Well, and they also have a memory care navigation program. They're very innovative, and they also have a research and innovation partnership with Banner. But that was really extraordinary having them on the show. And then we followed that up, and we had a lawyer on the show, Lou Silverman, who brought some amazing content in terms of preparing people for, what was the inevitable about them passing, and making sure that they had a will in place and they memorialized their wishes.
Yes, and the importance of that, like we forget, no one wants to talk about that, right?
No.
And just he keyed in on some key points of what you should be thinking about and what the consequences would be if you don't, to your family members who would have to deal with that. So that's an incredible listen if you guys go on to cypresshomecare.com and look up the Lou Silverman segment from earlier this year.
No doubt. And who else did we have on the show?
Well, we had a couple of people from Honor Health to talk about Heart Month. We had Kim Post and her daughter, Lindsay Wright, on the show, who are also
mother-daughter team.
Yeah, they're ambassadors for the American Heart Association, and just talking about all the innovation in the cardiovascular space that's going on right here in the Valley. It's pretty insane to know what these doctors and surgeons are coming up with, how they're utilizing technology for people who have cardiovascular conditions, how they're reducing hospital stays and length of stays that then lead to reduction in post-acute care after you get out of the hospital. It's not only cost savings, but overall outcomes are improving dramatically, and so many things that they're doing. They're actually going to be launching a cardiovascular center of excellence here in early 2023, and that's going to be world renowned. It's not just for people in the Valley. So even if you don't have a heart issue, start there so that you maybe start the prevention so you don't ever have one.
Well, let's face it, too. The number one cause of death, heart disease. And it's so important. And for me, it's very personal because ultimately that's what ended up taking my father's life. He had congestive heart failure, and my mother's over 20 years ago as well. So heart is so important, and to have this in our backyard is nothing short of amazing. We also had Jamie Ambrose on. She's with Adobe Care and Wellness, and she's got a company that really does a lot of care managing. They use a lot of in-house support, phone support. They also go out into the field. They use technology to really track vital information on the members of a lot of these health plans. She is someone I've known over the years, and just really extraordinary to have her here on the show. It's hard to believe we're getting ready to wind down the second segment. I know we're talking about the Honor Health Cardiac Program. You said when are they going to get that Center of Excellence up
their
and
Center
going?
of Excellence should be off the ground in early 2023. Don't have a date yet.
Wow.
But very cool. We should also talk about Lynn Flood, who visited us early in February last year, and how she's helped you personally.
Yeah, she helped me amazingly with my dad, and really she is an incredible ambassador for the work that Hospice of the Valley does. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about hospice. But you're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. I've got Lauren Strait here in the studio. I got my nephew, Spencer Roth, here in the studio. We're kind of recapping 2022 and really talking about where things are. We still have a couple more episodes to close out 22, but stick around. We got 2 more segments here. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we're in our second half here at Money Radio Studios, 1510 AM, 105.3 FM, and the World Wide Web, moneyradio1510.com. If you're just tuning in, I've got Spencer Roth, my nephew, here in the studio with me, and I got Lauren Strait, and she is the brains behind really what makes Cypress great and makes us look good by, one, putting the show together, but also the website, social media, newsletters, and all the messaging that is really brought to you from Cypress Home Care. Lauren is a big contributor to that. So if you missed our first half, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com, click on the media button, third button, actually it's first button down is radio show. You'll catch this show and many, many more. So we really, have spent the first half really talking about 2022, and it's hard to believe that we're a couple weeks away from starting 2023, and really talking about some of the guests and some of the challenges that we've been dealing with. And, we're in this, I'm not going to say post-pandemic world because we're still dealing with COVID, but we're in this world now that is a little unique and a little different. And I said this at the top of the hour, what makes companies like ours great, especially small businesses, is to figure out how to do more with less. And we used to have 15 employees, and now we're really down to 4.5, maybe 5. We're doing the same amount of business, but we're just doing it smarter. And having Lauren on our team is a really big contributing factor. I also have a professional employment organization behind the scenes. We just had our holiday party yesterday at Top Golf. So, we used to have these very lavish holiday parties, and this was, it was nice. And I would say it was somewhat lavish too, but it was, it was very, team building and camaraderie. And, when I looked around the table, I have 5 employees, but I have a lot of others, like OneSource, who's our professional employment organization. I've got Lauren Strait with her entity. I've got Eric Olson, who runs Fast Turtle Interactive, who is handling our website and other stuff that he is doing on our behalf. And then I also have an attorney that was supposed to make it, but he couldn't make it. So really, it really takes a village, and I'm really privileged to have this village to really help us do what we do and do it really well, and really try to operate in this new economy that we're in. I'm not going to get into the fact that we all have a workforce issue. We do, and I really want to take this opportunity to make this appeal to you, our listeners. And if you know of anybody that has a heart that wants to make a difference in somebody's life, as Spencer was describing, really take some of the burdens off of family members. And even though those family members, what they do is a labor of love, but to give them that respite, that break. If you know somebody that really could make a difference in someone's life, please call us at Cypress, 602-264-8009, or go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com, and that person can complete an application right there. So, Lauren, where do we leave off? We were talking about 22, and I know you jumped over to talk about Lin Sue Flood, and I can't thank Lin Sue Flood enough. She really made a difference in my family's life because my dad did choose the hospice journey, and that, to me, was one of the greatest gifts he gave us, because we as a home care agency are oftentimes put in a position where we sit down with the family members and we tell them, I think it's time that you need to consider hospice. And I am telling you, anyone listening in, nearly 100% of the time, if not 100, pretty darn close to 100% of the time, they're like, we're not ready.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And invariably when they do, they almost always say, we should have done this sooner.
And what people don't understand is there's a common misconception about hospice that even I didn't understand until Lin Sue kind of explained it, and then I dealt with that with my own father, is that you can actually do hospice services in your own home. When people talk about hospice, oftentimes people think, I have to ship my family member, or me, the person who's going to be receiving hospice, have to go somewhere, right? And I think you said your father did hospice at home.
98%, if not more, are at home.
Isn't that it's?
But
so
people
no,
think it's a place.
Exactly.
It's not a place. It's a concept.
Yeah, exactly. So.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up. And, I had Susan Levine, who used to be the executive director there for over 20 years here in the studio, and she walked us through what hospice truly is. It's a concept. It's a concept of comfort. And, the other thing for, like, my father is that he didn't have to stop seeing his doctors. People think that, it's the Grim Reaper, you're throwing in the towel.
Yep.
He was still seeing his doctors. He was still taking curative medicine. But at the same time, he was getting comfort care. Mm-hmm. And they were managing his pain and making him as comfortable as possible. So I put this message out to you, our listeners. If you have a loved one that may be dealing with a debilitating illness, may have a terminal illness as well, or may just need something to help them with the pain, they may qualify for hospice. And, hospice is not a bad thing. And, we've had Dr. Kevin Hazelhorst here on the show. He's talking about hospice and palliative care. We've had Cameron Svensson here on the show. We've had Lin Sue a number of different times. And I will tell you, Lin Sue, Cooney, now Flood, and my father developed this really nice friendship. And, they were here on the show together 3 times. It might have been 4. And a big shout out to you, Lin Sue. Thank you. You came to visit my father about a couple weeks before he passed and spent 90 minutes with him. And I know my family and he cherished that. And that's what it's really all about. It's about really celebrating that person, where they are in their journey, and really helping them through that journey. So, thank you, Lauren, for bringing that up. So we also had Dina Goldstein here on the studio. Dina's been here in the studio with me a number of different times. She has this great company called Measurabilities. Mm-hmm. And you really, again, she helped me with my father, because as we age and as we become more debilitated, we need assistive devices in our home. We need those grab bars. We need those shower chairs. We need those rugs that may be down on the ground that could be a tripping hazard. They do things very differently because her husband, Sandy, is a physical therapist, and they try to make sure ergonomically things are in the right place in the right time so that they don't have an accident or they don't have a mishap that could end up putting them in the ER. You know, we also had Stephen Skolnick. Dr. Skolnick was here in the studio. He's from the Arizona Cancer Center. I always get it wrong. It's ACCC, I think it is.
AZCCC, they like to call themselves.
AZCCC, and he's a radiation oncologist, and he's a good friend. He's been on the show a couple times. We've had a number of people on, and one of the people I want to talk about is Dr. Michael Gordon. I want to tee that up for the fourth segment.
Absolutely.
But really, you know, as we wind down this one, you know, we also had Dr. Gary Grove on. Gary is an old friend of mine, and he's a psychiatrist. And I will tell you, while my dad did not see Dr. Gary Grove, he did speak with psychiatrists before and grief counseling before. And I got to tell you, he never was that person to really open up. And even at the end of the life, he was receptive to really talking about it, because you lose a lot as you get older. You lose a lot of, you know, not only your physical capabilities, but you lose a lot of people that are close to you in life. And, you know, you have a lot of questions that you need to have answered, and you need to talk to somebody. And sometimes a family member isn't good enough. Maybe they're not comfortable enough to be sharing with a family member, but to have a professional really makes a big difference. You're listening to Health Futures. It's hard to believe we're down 3 segments. And I do want to say to our listeners, I don't think I've ever carried a show really reflecting on our year. And I want to thank you for bearing with me to really talk about and reflect on 22 and really talk about 23. And I think we'll get into 23 in this last segment. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth. I got Spencer Roth here in the studio. He's my nephew. And Lauren Strait with Strait Talk PR. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we are in our 4th segment here. We're ready to close out our December 16th episode here of Health Futures. We're kind of reflecting on 22 and really talking about some of the things that we did and guests that we host. And Lauren Strait is here in the studio with me, and I've got Spencer Roth, my nephew, here in the studio with me. And Lauren, you know I talked about Dr. Gary Grove. I know we had a number of behavioral health people here in the studio. Please help me reflect on 22.
Absolutely. Yeah, behavioral health is obviously a stigma that's really impacted several age groups, right? And our aging seniors are definitely one of them. And so
No doubt.
It's incredible, though, about the resources that we do have available right here in the Valley, Gary Grove being one of them, and just talking about some of those things that he sees with aging adults and things to look for as it relates to behavioral health, or maybe when it's time, signs that when it's time to talk to somebody. The other cool thing that we do have here in the Valley is Honor Health actually has a behavioral health program through their primary care. So if you need to talk to someone or if somebody's dealing with something, you can actually visit any of their primary care locations. They have behavioral health people right on site, and the best thing is that they only charge the copay that you would be charged at a primary care location. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Especially because just access alone, right, is an issue. And of course, let's not forget that we had Jacqueline Hull and Dawn Hoffner on from UHS, a behavioral health hospital that just recently opened this year, or maybe it was late last year, late in 2021.
It was.
That hospital that's right in the heart of Scottsdale. So if you have elevated issues, there's a great referral source to get into a behavioral health institute if you need that, or if you know someone who needs that.
We also, I was talking about Michael Gordon. And
let's not forget about him.
Michael Gordon, Dr. Michael Gordon is a pretty special guy, and he does a lot over at Honor Health, and one of his fortes obviously is oncology, and
right.
And, he came onto the show and really talking about the research that he heads up. He's kind of their chief research medical officer.
Yeah, they have a whole research institute over there at Honor Health, which is pretty incredible. And they do world-renowned clinical trials in oncology. He has a big focus in pancreatic cancer, and in fact, actually became a patient as a survivor of pancreatic cancer stage 4. So his story is pretty phenomenal because he used the same techniques that were used in the latest clinical trial that they did over there at Honor Health. So pretty fascinating.
Pretty fascinating. And not only that, I mean, he, you talk about the clinical trials. He was sharing with us some of the stuff that he was doing for really our U.S. government as it relates to COVID.
Right.
And a lot of the clinical trials for COVID were being done right here in our backyard.
Right here.
Right at Honor Health. And,
yes.
And, he heads that department. My hat's off to him. I mean, just the fact that he became a patient of a cancer that he actually works very closely. He and Dr. Daniel Van Hoff were working on that. And to have him in the studio was really special. And he was my stepmother and my father's oncologist too. On top of that,
I could listen to him all day. He's so fascinating.
No, he truly is. So just going down the list of people that we had here on the show. I mean, we had lots of communities here on the show, senior living communities, and the one that I treasure, and it'd been almost 8 years since I had her on, was Sharon Harper. Sharon Harper, who is the founder and owner of Plaza Companies, and a lot of people don't know that entity. If you're in the development business and real estate business, you know it. But if you aren't in that industry, you might know the V Silverstone, you might know the V Greyhawk, you might know, some of the communities that she built over on the West Valley, doctor's practices. You might have heard of Sky Song. You might also know Park Central Mall, which is right down at Central and Thomas, where she helped redevelop that, and she and her husband Ollie were very instrumental in bringing Creighton University here. I mean,
That's right.
It's just incredible what this woman did and has done and continues to do. But we also had Stephanie Smith in here. She stood up a new community that is up and running right now, and we're going to have her on as a guest again. She's going to talk about what she's doing at Clarendale, which is over there at Arcadia. It is a high-end, first-rate community, and it just got stood up right now.
Yeah, well, yeah, and what they're doing just from a development standpoint, even going back to Sharon Harper, about how all the pieces that she took, all the knowledge that she took of, how people want the community around them. They want everything in their backyard. They want the stores and the doctor's offices and everything all together in one area. She really kind of innovated that whole idea around that. And now you're seeing communities like LCS and Clarendale, Arcadia, and all of her communities. Right. They're all right there. They have everything right on site. You don't have to go anywhere to go to the movies, go to the grocery store, go to your doctor, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think it was Rio del Sol was like
That's
the first
right.
one. Rio del Sol, and she did that like 30 years ago. I mean, she helped give birth to what many of these great communities are following today. So, but beyond that, we've had many doctors on. We even had my old friend Steve Heller on. He's from Glencroft. He's got the Zoa Life program going. Jan Doherty from Travel Alls, and really helping people that are traveling with dementia and Alzheimer's. Really, really loved having her, back on. Casey Kanan, who has Envoy America. This is transportation for those that are no longer able to drive. We had Dan Moline on, Dr. Dan Moline, really talking about colorectal cancer. It was Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month in the month of March, and we actually had him on April Fools. We didn't get him in on March, but it was really, really amazing to have him on and really talk about a cancer that is really preventable, and a lot of people, all they need to do is just get screened. That's really what you need to do. We had Sunny Linebarger on. I know that you were very moved by having her, how inspirational she is. Oh, yeah.
I think we're living parallel lives. I just love her, the way she thinks and how she's just created this craft for herself and for to benefit our seniors.
Well, and having her and Mary Tautems on, I mean, both of them inspirational. Mary is doing the EOS implementation, and she's got her own company doing really, really well. She talked about her business. We had David Vopel on from Arizona Healthcare Association. The list could go on.
Right.
Karen Barno was amazing. I've had her on the show before. Jerry Svensson. Big shout out to Jerry. Jerry is an older adult who is close to my father's age. He's like 84, 85 years old, living his best lives. He is a super ager and really shared with us how he was doing it. There's not enough time. Lauren, 22 was a great year, and 23 I know is going to be a better year. We had some extraordinary guests here on the show, and for us, we want to be able to bring you meaningful content, and really our future is bright. We talk about innovation, we talk about technologies, we talk about disruption. I was very fortunate to be able to write a piece for the Home Care magazine, and little did I know it was going to be a feature, and really talked about the 4 areas that we need to innovate with technology and really think about outside the box how we could maybe disrupt it without destroying anything. The 4 areas were awareness, affordability, advocacy, and really age appreciation. And we have talked about age appreciation and ageism in the past, and how we need to really respect our elders. But you know what, guys? I thank you for being here on the show. Spencer Roth, what do you got to say, my friend, my nephew?
It's a treat. I hope to be back soon.
All right. Well, it was great to have you. And Lauren, I never thought I'd get you at the mic, but thank you for indulging me and our listeners and really recapping 22. And it was really nice having you at our year-end holiday party last night over at Top Golf. And big shout out to them. I mean, they don't pay me to do this. You need to maybe work on that. But what a great venue to really do a team building event.
Yep.
You've been listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. We'll be back next Friday. Thank you for listening.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.